I should probably introduce myself to you. My name is Legion. I was already introduced to you in the gospel this morning. Was I ever lucky that Jesus came to Jerash, where I lived? You might think I'm crazy now, but you should have seen me then. Or maybe not. They thought I was possessed with evil spirits. I didn't wear any clothes. I lived in a cemetery. I stumbled around and fell. I yelled crazy things at the top of my voice. Try as they might, those poor people couldn't find anything they could do to control my behavior. The demons, they were talking to me. Today you would say I was mentally ill, probably with schizophrenia. If I had insurance, I'd be in the hospital, but if not, well, I would be like many of the street people you have in your cities today. I don't have to tell you that part of my story because you already heard it this morning, but that's only part of the story. I've got something else to tell you because there is more to this than meets the eye. Have you ever noticed how the gospel writers are storytellers just like Jesus was? And St. Luke, this morning's gospel writer, is storyteller par excellence. More than 20 stories are found only in Luke's gospel. Some of those are probably among your favorites: the Good Samaritan, the prodigal son, the rich man and Lazarus, along with the Annunciation and the beloved Christmas story. Well, the gospel story this morning, which I don't think is anybody's favorite, is told in 3 of the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I guess they must have thought it was pretty important. What's unique about the way Luke tells this story is the emphasis on fear. Fear plays an important role throughout the Gospel of Luke. For example, already in chapter 1, Zechariah, the father of John the Baptizer, is overwhelmed with fear at the appearance of the angel. Mary is perplexed about Gabriel's announcement. The shepherds are terrified by the heavenly host. The disciples are afraid and amazed at the stilling of the storm. The women are perplexed at the empty tomb and terrified by the announcement of Jesus' resurrection. So you shouldn't be surprised that Luke tells you the people around the city of Jerash were seized with great fear when Jesus healed me, when Jesus cast out the demons. When you hear my story, maybe it sounds to you as if the people of Jerash were simply afraid of me and my illness, an illness they called demon possession, an illness about which they didn't know much, either its cause or its cure. People are easily frightened, you know, by the unknown, especially a mysterious or terminal illness. Even today, when a person is diagnosed with cancer or HIV/AIDS, many of their friends and acquaintances avoid them. They don't want anything to do with them, lest somehow they catch it. And that's unfortunate, because that is when someone really needs their friends. No, the people of Jerash weren't really afraid of me or my illness. I'd lived with them most of my life. By this time, they were quite used to me and to my illness. Some days were better than others. Really, they just found me irritating, obnoxious, and inconvenient, like those street people I mentioned to you No, it wasn't I whom they feared. It was Jesus. They knew how to deal with me, but they didn't know how to deal with him. Like on that Sabbath day when Jesus was in the synagogue at Nazareth, after he spoke to the people about the reading from the book of Isaiah, they were filled with rage, and they would have hurled him off the cliff. In the Bible, fear means more than being afraid. It has to do with reverence and awe. It is reverence for the holy and awe in the presence of the sacred, even with love and respect for God. It is the emotion of being in the presence of God because God's presence changes us. It was clear that Jesus was no ordinary human being, no ordinary prophet. In Jesus, they saw God, and they didn't know how to deal with that. When we recognize God's presence in our lives, when God is with us, that godly presence often strikes terror in our hearts. But think of it as holy reverence or sacred awe, not just terror or fear. Like the holy reverence of Moses at the burning bush, or the sacred awe of Isaiah, who claims that he is a man with unclean lips. Like the centurion at the foot of the cross who proclaims that Jesus is the Son of God. Or like Thomas who cries out, "My Lord and my God." When God is present, there is holy reverence and sacred awe. God with us. God's presence in our lives changes us. I, the preacher of Jerash, can testify to that. God changed me. I was healed of my illness. But it's more than a physical healing. You see, not everyone is healed, but everyone is changed. My whole life was changed. Most important, I became the preacher of Jerash, a witness of God's love, proclaiming how much Jesus had done for me. Do you recall when I was healed? When the demons were gone? I begged Jesus to follow him. But he told me to declare how much God had done for me. It wasn't my idea to become a preacher. I just wanted to follow Jesus, but God had other ideas. So now, instead of Legion, they call me the preacher of Jerash because I tell how much Jesus has done for me everywhere I go. When God comes into our lives, it's always to heal and to change us. Having tasted God's love, we are all sent forth as signs and messengers of God's love. I don't mean just talking about it. I mean reaching out to one another, supporting one another, loving one another, even as you have been loved, no matter who it is.